Hi guys, we're here at day one with the Binance Blockchain Week with Anthony Pompliano, or Pomp as he's famously called. Welcome to the show, Pomp.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Welcome to Singapore as well. Is this your first time?
It is not my first time, but it's one of my favorite places in the world. So.
Oh, is it? Are you just saying that, or
no? It's beautiful, and the people are very nice. And then I joke all the time whenever you drive from the airport into Singapore and you see Marina Bay Sands, right, the Ferris wheel, etc.
Yeah.
It's just exciting to kind of drive into the city, probably more so than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. So you're a founder and partner at Morgan Creek Digital, and I want to get into what you do at the fund, plus your investment thesis as well. But before we get into that, a lot of our listeners and viewers are from Asia, different parts of Asia, including Korea, India, parts of Southeast Asia. And some of them might not, there might be just a handful of people who might not know about your background or what you do. Could you quickly walk us through your background, how you got into crypto, and what that journey's been like?
For sure. Played football in college, was in the U.S. Army for 6.5 years, served a deployment overseas to Iraq, came back, built and sold 2 tech companies, went and ran a number of product and growth teams at Facebook and Snap, then started a venture capital fund.
When was the VC fund? Sorry to jump in.
Started that in 2016.
Okay.
While doing that, we invested in about 65 companies.
Okay. And what was the focus?
Just early stage venture capital. So really just backing great entrepreneurs as early as we possibly could. Didn't care about location, didn't care about industry, etc. That fund's gone very well for us. And then
is that still running?
So all the capital's deployed, and we're just riding out the companies, but it's doing well. And then we started building mining facilities in 2016. And the thought process was, I'm very familiar with the data center business, and mining was data center businesses on steroids. So my partner and I, Jason Williams, we built 4 mining facilities, and we're off to the races after that.
Yeah. So what were you mining?
In the beginning, we were mining Ethereum, and then eventually started mining Bitcoin as well.
Okay. And how did Morgan Creek Digital come about?
So after we deployed the first fund at full tilt, we knew that we wanted to raise a second fund, all focused on crypto. We were really interested in raising from institutions. And as we started talking more and more to Mark Yusko, who's the founder of Morgan Creek, we just realized that 1 + 1 was going to equal like 3 or 4. And he had great background and relationships with institutions. We had great deal flow and kind of direct investing experience. And then Morgan Creek also had a 40-person, full-time employee staff that provided everything from regulatory licensing, compliance, sales and marketing, administrative support, etc. And so we merged in Q1 of 2017, I'm sorry, 2018. And have been off to the races since. Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure how much you're able to disclose, but could you talk about how the fund is structured? Who are your LPs? You mentioned there are some institutional investors. Are you guys more sort of venture focused, more hedge fund style? What's the time horizon? And basically how you structured the fund?
So we've got 2 funds. We've got a venture capital fund and an index fund. Venture capital fund is looking to make direct investments into companies for equity, and that those investments will be monetized by either companies going public or being acquired. And then the LPs are a majority of the capital from institutions. And then on the index fund side, it's just giving individuals or institutions beta market exposure. So top 10 cryptos, market weight average, rebalance monthly. I've got some float requirements, and really just trying to not outsmart the market and just say we'll take whatever it gives us, and we think that'll be good enough.
So as far as institutions are concerned, I mean, is it more family offices? Or what kind of size are we talking? I mean, like how big are these institutions? Obviously, you won't be able to disclose the names, but like just...
So our largest institutions, the 2 anchors for the fund, one manages like 1.8 billion, another manages like 4 billion. So pretty large institutions. And then we've got, hospital system, insurance company, university endowment, some family offices, some individuals.
Yeah.
But the bulk of the capital is coming from those institutions.
Okay. And you would hold both tokens and equity on the VC fund side, or is it just you have exposure to the top 10 cryptos on the index side, and then everything else is
So on the
equity?
venture fund, majority of the capital goes direct investing. We do have the ability to hold a very small amount of liquid tokens. Think of it as just like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Yeah.
But it's very small and definitely not the focus of the fund.
Okay. So you're not actively trading anything. Yeah.
I'm a horrible trader,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Okay.
I think I know what we might be okay at doing, but I also know what we're horrible at, and trading is definitely at the top of that list.
Sure. So you're focusing on your core competencies, which makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So as far as VC investments are concerned, I mean, you've been a VC before in sort of the quote-unquote traditional world. I mean, could you talk about some of the sort of the skills or some of the qualities that you look for in a team or a founder that has been transferred from sort of the traditional VC world into crypto?
Yeah. So every single thing that we did before, we're doing today, and it doesn't matter if it's crypto or not.
Sure.
So a lot of people, I think, are surprised when we start to explain what our investment thesis is, right? My personal criteria is three things. I need a really strong, impressive team. I need them to have a track record of execution with momentum at their back, and I need them going after a big market. And if I see those three things, I'll usually invest. And the reason being, I don't care what product they're building. I don't care what their competition's doing. I don't care what the regulatory environment is. All of that stuff's going to change over time. But if we bet on the right people, we're betting on them to solve problems, right? And so we want to find people who can solve those problems. And then we need them to have a propensity for action or for execution. And so when you see a team that has been building and executing with or without capital, you have the feeling like these people are going to be successful even if I don't give them money, right? And those are the people that you actually want to back. And then the large market opportunity just means that the company can get really big if the right people solve the problem, right, and execute correctly. And so those are the three criteria.
Okay. And are you able to talk about what your typical ticket size is?
We've done everything from $250,000 checks to a couple $1 million.
And what stage would you typically invest at? Is it really early, or is it sort of Series A, Series B?
We'll do everything.
You're agnostic.
We've literally been the first money into pre-seed deals, and we've done, we did a company at a multi-billion-dollar valuation.
Okay. And so very high level speaking, I mean, if we talk about your investment thesis, and I don't know if you have a thesis, is there some sort of a mental model that you deploy in terms of thinking about the ecosystem as a whole, and then where you allocate your capital?
Yeah, so probably not from an investment standpoint as much as just my personal interest, and investments tend to follow what you're interested in.
Yeah.
I really break it down into three buckets. One is Bitcoin, two is tokenized securities, and three is infrastructure for the crypto industry. Bitcoin, pretty self-explanatory. If we can disrupt money with technology, that's going to be incredibly valuable. And it is probably the best risk reward available in all of technology today.
Yeah.
There's not very many assets that have $50+ billion in market cap and could still 100x.
Sure.
Tokenized securities, my core thesis since day one has been every stock, bond, currency, and commodity will be digitized or tokenized at some point in the future. I think we're starting to see that now, and that'll accelerate over time.
Sorry, to jump in. So as far as tokenized securities are concerned, so I mean, if there's a real estate company that is tokenizing their assets, would you invest in that security? Is that what you mean by investing in tokenized securities? Because that would be essentially investing in real estate.
Yep. So right now we would not do that deal out of the fund. We could do some SPVs or personally invest into those types of deals.
Sure.
But when I talk about investing in tokenized securities, we've made a couple of investments in infrastructure companies around that.
Yeah.
So we, I think publicly we've talked about investing in Trust Token, Open Finance Network, also into City Block Capital, and then there's a couple other investments like that that we haven't announced yet as well.
Sure. And so to get it to the third bucket, and you kind of transition into that as well.
Just
So
infrastructure. Yep.
Yeah.
And so we've made investments into a number of companies that aren't dependent on the price of Bitcoin going up or down or other crypto asset. As long as the overall market size grows, these companies will make money. And so everything from data to exchanges to kind of special use cases for blockchains. We're kind of all across the board there, just looking for opportunities to back really special entrepreneurs who are going after these large markets.
Okay, and are these mostly? I'm presuming the infrastructure deals are mostly equity deals, right?
Almost everything. So we won't make an investment unless it is in a regulated offering that gives us equity or a claim on cash flow.
Okay. What do you make of the? I mean, and I'm guessing you have talked about it publicly as well. Some of the protocols. So there's that whole store of value thesis, which you obviously believe in. You're long Bitcoin.
And short the bankers.
And short the bankers. We're going to talk about that as well. That's the store of value use case. There's then there's the protocol use case that keeps getting talked about. There's obviously the application layer. There's stable coins after that, and then equity deals. So you focus on the store of value, the equity deals. What about protocols? What about applications? What about stable coins?
Stable coins, I think, are interesting for a very small set of use cases.
Sure.
But there is value in having a stable unit of account that can be transferred between people across borders, et cetera. So I think that there will be use cases there, but probably not an investment opportunity that we're excited about.
Sure.
When it comes to protocols, I tend to believe that there will be consolidation, 5 or less kind of win in the long run. I think people are underestimating one, how big Bitcoin's transaction network is already, and then two, how important security will be as kind of that ground layer or foundation, which obviously the Bitcoin network has. And then in terms of applications, I'm less interested in defining we're going to invest in applications or not invest in applications, or distributed applications or decentralized applications are really important, et cetera. And we just want to find technology that's solving problems, right? And I tell founders all the time that building a dApp doesn't mean that people are going to use your service.
Yeah.
And so the idea of like building decentralized Facebook is pretty dumb in my opinion, mainly because nobody's going to use it because it's decentralized.
Sure.
If you build a social network that's 10 times better than Facebook and you can somehow get people to leave the network effects that Facebook has, then maybe they use your product, and oh, by the way, it's decentralized, right? Decentralization is not the value prop.
Sure.
It's a feature that's a nice to have, right, for many users.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you care about founders sort of solving problems. So what do you think are the biggest problems that need solving at the moment?
We got to get more smart people working on scalability, like things like Lightning Network, Liquid, et cetera. I think another huge issue is user experiences.
Sure.
There's a lot of people who have made technology do interesting, innovative things, but it's still difficult for non-technical people to use those products, and so we've got to solve that. And then the third thing is we've got to digitize or tokenize those stocks, bonds, currencies, and commodities. There's a combination of technical hurdles, regulation hurdles, and then just kind of capital market stuff. And so a lot of people ask me, what's the most important thing that needs to happen in crypto for it to be successful? And I usually just answer with time. Right, this stuff takes time for developers to write code, for investors to invest capital, for entrepreneurs to build companies, and so I think we've just got to have this patience about seeing this industry develop over some timeline.
What's your time horizon for the fund, since we're talking about time?
So it's traditional venture fund, 10-year fund.
10-year fund.
But I look at this as if you don't have a 5+ year outlook on different things that you're engaging with in the industry, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that you're wrong, but just the probability is that things are going to take longer than you expect. And so kind of 5+ years is usually how I look at most of the companies.
Yeah, and that's more on the venture side. The index fund, I guess, would have Is that more of a hedge fund structure, or that's
the index fund have even longer time horizon?
Okay.
So, if you invest in the S&P, most people aren't investing in getting out in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
They're investing and they're continuing to invest, and they're going to use compounding and kind of dollar cost averaging, and it's more of a long-term investment vehicle that has a kind of rules-based entry.
Yeah.
And whether it's some percentage of each paycheck or whatever, but it's very, very long time horizon, and I tend to think that crypto will outperform public markets over the next 10 years. And so, we're just keep that long time horizon on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, this phrase recently, I mean, it came up in our conversation as well. Long Bitcoin, short the bankers, and that's sort of become an anthem over a period of time. There's it's been quoted in multiple traditional media houses.
Yep.
It's obviously highly retweeted on Twitter. How did it come about? What does it mean to you?
So one of the things that we as an industry probably haven't done such a good job of is clearly communicating ideas in very simple terms to the masses.
Sure.
I tend to think that that is one of the highest leverage things that we can do. And specifically, I think I understand that really well. And so there's a couple of different sayings that we've come up with over time, whether it's tokenize the world, the virus is spreading, long Bitcoin, short the bankers. It's a way to communicate rather complex kind of emotional ideas in very kind of memorable single sentences or one-liners. And when it comes to long Bitcoin, short the bankers, it's this idea that there's two financial systems, right? And they are fairly different from each other. There's the legacy system that is highly centralized, is run by humans, is not very transparent, is wrought with nefarious activity, but has the highest adoption, right? And then there's this new alternative financial system that's based on math and software code that is much more transparent, that actually has much less nefarious activity, but has low adoption. And so this idea that if you put these two alternative financial systems next to each other, I have much more confidence in the long-term sustainability and of the digital financial system or the decentralized financial system, so kind of long Bitcoin. And then short the bankers really started because bad people do bad things regardless of the industry, and there's a lot
crypto
of
included.
Yeah, of course, crypto included, right?
Yeah.
And I think people forget how much bad stuff goes on in the traditional financial system. And so that one phrase I think really just illuminates a lot of the dissent or discourse that crypto faces with the legacy system.
Yeah. So I know you're super active on Twitter. Is that the best place to follow you and your activities, your thought processes, your philosophies?
I couldn't get off Twitter at this point, and if I tried.
I mean, you've done pretty well. I mean, I don't know if you got most of your followers after crypto happened, or was that prior to crypto as well?
So in the beginning of 2017, January, I told myself I'm going to start using Twitter more. I had like 3,000 followers. And it was a little bit of a game to me, right? I ran these growth teams at Facebook, and so there's this running joke that anybody who worked at Facebook hasn't seen a number that they don't want to go up and to the right. And so they put a follower number there, and I said, I wonder if I could figure out how to grow that. And here we are about 2 years later, and I've got like 180,000 followers.
Right?
It's insane to me that I can literally pick my phone up and immediately talk to that many people.
That's leverage.
And look, it's good and bad, right? I mean, look, I say things sometimes that I'm like, you know what? I don't even believe that anymore, right? Because I've been presented with new information, I've changed my mind. Well, there's 180,000 people who've already read that and think I believe that now, right? And so I do think that a lot of the success of the large accounts, right? Not just mine, but a bunch of people. They just don't fear the backlash. They don't fear if people think that they're dumb, right? They just say, look, this is what I believe right now, and I'm going to share it, and I'd love feedback. And if you want to retweet it, you want to reply, knock yourself out. But I'm going to use the platform how I think is best.
Yeah. Any advice on someone who's trying to grow their Twitter following?
I think the three things usually are say what you believe, because there's probably more people than you know that are out there and believe the same thing. Two is you'd be surprised at how much grammar, punctuation, spacing, kind of readability matters, right? So you'll see me do like a lot of lists or paragraphs with spaces in between, etc.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is there's a direct, whether it's causation or correlation between how much you tweet and the engagement you get.
Yeah.
And so if you tweet once a week, you're likely not to grow your account that much.
Yeah.
But if you tweet, early and often, you've got a much better chance, because there's just more content you're putting out in the world for people to interact with.
Yeah. You've got a bunch of haters as well, but I see you keep liking all of their tweets. I mean,
Hey, the haters need love too. No, look, the haters are funny to me, because there's literally people who every single time I tweet will respond and be like, "You're an idiot."
Yeah.
Right. And so one day I just said to myself, it's not worth me trying to engage with these people. And so I started liking their tweets, because I figured that would be the one kind thing that I could do.
Yeah.
Because their tweet actually gets more engagement and distribution after I do that.
Absolutely.
And so it's this kind thing that I do for them that I know annoys them. Yeah. And so it's a way for me to, kind of kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize that people were going to catch on to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so now if somebody tweets something ridiculous at me and I don't like the tweet, everyone starts tagging me in it to try to get me to like it, which has kind of turned it into this, this kind of inside joke, if you will, with people who follow me.
Yeah. But do you think you already had a thick skin, or you've developed it over a period of time?
Yeah. Look, I grew up in a house with 4 younger brothers, right?
Sure,
You couldn't walk down the hallway without getting told you're an idiot.
Sure.
So I think that the internet just reveals who we are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who, probably aren't happy with their lives, and they go on and they just yell at somebody else.
Yeah.
And then the people who just, I don't care what people on the internet say to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I do what I want to do and enjoy my life, and,
Absolutely.
not worry about it.
Yeah. Guys, so we've got Pomp. Follow him on Twitter. You've got a newsletter as well, Off the Chain. Subscribe. I suppose
appreciate
a
it.
little plug-in. We'll put the links in the podcast, in the video. But thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you have a very busy schedule. We hope to keep seeing you in Singapore.
Absolutely. I'll be back for sure. Thanks so much for having me.
All right.